All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tatum Show. Happy Friday. This is going to be a quick show for you. We got Kyle Busch, his death. I want to talk about it and some of the speculation associated with it. The UK assault. The cops get beat up, and they just let these Muslim nut jobs off the hook, and it's crazy. New UAPs, or we call them UFOs. I don't know why they changed the name, but we have these new UFO footage that have been launched. Tim Burchett, I interview him about it. You do not want to miss. That's going to be the coldest part of the show, I'm just telling you. Marble thighs. I brought on my, let me just say that correctly because I don't want to say it like that. I brought on an incredible guest, one of our friends, Kim Bright, and we talk about a woman with marble thighs, okay? Don't think that Kim Bright ain't got it all together, all right? All right, before we get to any of that, we got to talk about Tulsi Gabbard resigning from her post at the White House and the controversy surrounding it. Welcome to the Tatum Show.
I want everybody in this room to have that same spirit, that same identity carried in your life.
Make sure that you go through life and find your purpose.
And we don't do this just to get a pat on the back. We do it because we came here to win.
And it starts with you understanding that God has a purpose for you.
This is the time to be more bold than ever before.
We're all Americans at the end of the day, and we should love one another. We should be focused on what's right for our country. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We got to talk about Tulsi Gabbard. She resigned from her post. When I first saw the news, I was shocked, and I said, is it something conspiratorial that's going on that made Tulsi Gabbard resign? But then after you just do your due diligence and do your research and let it play out, you realize that it was something to do with the family matter, and it had nothing to do with her hatred towards Donald Trump and her resigning because Donald Trump's Iranian war and, war in Iran and all that other stuff. But we're going to get to the news clips because I want you guys to hear what the news say, and I think that Tulsi Gabbard had a statement as well. I wrote a clip.
On to this breaking news now. Fox News has just learned Tulsi Gabbard is resigning from her post as Director of National Intelligence. All right, let's get right to David Spunt. He's got the news for us. David?
Well, Sandra, we are told that Tulsi Gabbard is resigning effective June 30th because of her husband's recent diagnosis of an aggressive form of bone cancer. Our thoughts, of course, are with Ms. Gabbard and her family, Director Gabbard and her husband, Abraham. She said that Abraham has been her rock since they've been married, and she submitted her resignation letter to the president and two members of the senior staff, announcing that her last day would be June 30th because of this diagnosis of her husband's bone cancer. Unfortunately, this is something that Gabbard says that she cannot continue to manage doing two jobs at that time. So she will continue serving in the role of the Director of National Intelligence, overseeing the CIA, National Security Council, other agencies, but will leave June 30th because of this tragic news of her husband's bone cancer diagnosis. Sandra and John, as she helps him fight that over the coming months.
All right, so you guys have heard the actual occurrence and why she left. I want you to put your thinking cap on, and I want you to see who's going to make this into a conspiracy. It seems fairly reasonable that if her husband has this type of rare bone cancer, it's almost impossible to fake something like that because he has a rare bone cancer, and then all of a sudden he's on the beach drinking margaritas and looking healthier than ever. And she's now doing her own thing or go working somewhere else. That's not going to look right. I don't think she would fabricate that statement. Anything is possible, but I wanted that to be very transparent for you guys. Also, we have a statement that she gave the president. I'm not going to read it out. If you guys want to see it, just push pause on the screen, and you can go through, zoom it in, and read it. That's a lot to read. I bet the totality of it is just her explaining her resignation to President Trump. President Trump also made a comment on Truth Social. I think this is probably a little shorter, so maybe I'll just read it real quick. It says, unfortunately, after having done a great job, Tulsi Gabbard will be leaving the administration on June the 30th. Her wonderful husband, Abraham, has been recently diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer, and she rightfully wants to be there with him, bringing him back to good health as they currently fight the tough battle together. I have no doubt that he will soon be better than ever. Tulsi has done an incredible job, and we will miss her. Her highest respect, Principal Deputy Director of National Security, Aaron Lucas, I think it is, will serve as acting director of national intelligence, President Donald Trump. So there you go. Don't believe the conspiracies. I wanted to throw that out to you. In other news, unfortunate situation happened with Kyle Busch, one of the most prolific, one of the greatest NASCAR drivers that has ever lived, from a dynasty of NASCAR drivers. And he lost his life, he died. Just recently, it was very sad for the people who love sports, and it's also very sad because he was only 41 years old. Now, I'm not going to try to act like I know a lot about Kyle Busch. I actually saw him race at Talladega when I went. We sponsored a ARC racer car, and we ended up being able to see Cup race. And the Cup races helped me realize why people actually watch NASCAR. I was like, why do people watch cars go in a circle? It makes no sense. That's the most boring, stupidest thing. Cars going like this 100 times in a circle, it means nothing. Oh, when I went to Talladega, it was out of control. It was the presence of just the camaraderie of everybody that's there, the beauty of an American sport. And then when you hear them cars roaring around a track like that, it's different, man. When you're there in person, it is different. But I want to play the news clip about Kyle Busch because this is very sad what happened to him. It's very mysterious. And when I say mysterious, I don't know if they can point to exactly what has happened to this man who was apparently healthy and 41 years old. And you have to be in good shape to drive a NASCAR. You can't be sloppy and think you're going to go around that track and be able to have stamina and all the things that you need to continue to race at a high level and win at a high level. So let's play the news clip, and then we're going to play some of the things that the conspirators are trying to push out there, which I want to let you know what it is and, not leave you in the dark about what people are saying. I don't believe that the conspiracies are true. I think people are they love to find something somewhere. But I'll at least let you know that it exists. All right, roll the clip.
NASCAR legend Kyle Busch, the most winningest driver in NASCAR history, has shockingly died at the age of 41 years old. Now, we found out a couple of hours ago from NASCAR and from Kyle's team, Richard Childress Racing, that he had been hospitalized with what they called a severe illness. And we had been talking to people today, and they told us that this was not good. Now, what exactly Kyle was dealing with is unclear, but we do know that he was dealing with some sort of sinus issue, what seemed like some sort of infection over the last couple of weeks. In fact, on May 10th, he was racing in a Cup Series race when he radioed to his team asking for a doctor to meet him after the race so he could receive medical attention. But that's not stopping Kyle Busch, because this guy was a race car driver through and through. In fact, May 15th, Truck Series race, he races and he wins the race. 2 days later, on May 17th, he takes part in the NASCAR All-Star race. And now, shockingly, just 4 days later, he is gone away from the track. He was a family man. He is survived by his wife, Samantha, and his 2 children, an 11-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. Just crushing news. Kyle Busch, rest in peace.
Yeah, that's very sad, man. 41 is so young. I used to think 41 was old. Now that I'm 39, I'm almost 40. 41 is very, very young. And to leave behind a wife and kids, man, if you were single with no kids, it wouldn't be as bad. But what is the wife supposed to tell her babies? Daddy never come up, you never see him again. It's very terrible, and it is sad. His son's birthday was 3 days ago, which makes it even worse. Well, at least he had the chance to see his son before he passed, but it makes it worse because his son associated around his birthday is going to forever remember this day. Let's go to clip 107 as Kyle's request for medical attention during the race, and this is just a recording they had. Roll it.
Kyle Busch has been suffering from a sinus cold all week. Lost 5 spots on that pit stop. He has asked to have medical attention available after the race. Here's his radio.
And can somebody try to find Bill Heisel? He's the Hendrick doctor guy. Tell him I need him after the race, please. Hey, do you want Mr. Bill at your car or at your bus after the race? Bus. I'm gonna need a shot. Copy. He'll be at your bus.
Racing can't be any fun when your head is completely stuffed up like that. It's the worst.
All right, and this is one of his last interviews. Roll it.
Kyle Busch, your 69th victory in this series, your 5th right here. Why do these moments never get old, Kyle?
Because you never know when the last one is, So I know all too well, unfortunately, with the Cup stuff, but here with the truck stuff right now is it's awesome just to be a part of Spire Motorsports. Thanks to Jeff and Dan and Mr. H for the opportunity. HendrickCars.com. I'm sure it looked great out front leading the race, and it wasn't just Kyle Larson doing it. So, feels good to have another Kyle being able to do it and putting ourselves in victory lane.
All right, and then he also had a 911 call right before his death, and here's the call.
Yes. Could I get an ambulance to come to set an individual that's shortness of breath, very hot, thinks he's going to pass out, and is producing a little bit of blood, coughing up some blood.
Is he awake?
He is awake. He's awake. He's on the bathroom floor right now.
That is very sad, and I often wonder what really happened to him, man. I mean, for him to be 41 years old and all of a sudden come down with such an illness. There are people who are doctors who know more about this stuff than I do, and they could probably tell instantaneously if the couple symptoms that has been broadcast, they can tell exactly what happened. But it's very sad. I hope that it was nothing crazy that happened to him. I hope nobody poisoned him or something crazy. And the conspiracies, speculations are out there. I'll just briefly tell you guys, there was a lawsuit between, him and his wife and a life insurance company called Pacific Life. They are the I got one of these little plans myself. So I got the little paper here so I could tell you guys a little bit of what it is. It's one of those index universal life insurance policies. They call it IULs. And it's one of those things where you pay into your life insurance policy, and then it kind of invests and grows over time. You can borrow against it, different things like that. And then when you die, you can also use it as a life insurance policy. I know I'm probably not explaining it 100 times right, but that's how it was explained to me when I jumped into it. So it was supposed to be something that people can use for retirement and also for life insurance if they do die. It was a multi-million-dollar settlement that may have happened. I mean, some of the reports is that Kyle Busch put in about $10 million into it, with the expectation that they would do what they had promised. And there was a settlement that happened, and now people are speculating that somehow maybe that settlement had something to do with his death. I highly doubt it, because life insurance policies, they don't want you to die, because then they have to pay you out money. So they rather keep making money off you as long as they can towards the end of your life so they can pay you after they've made their money back. But dying at 41 years old is very, very young. But just so you know, they got their conspiracies. Let me get to this UK assault situation, and then we're going to get to the favorite part of the show. Give me about 7 minutes. We're going to get to your favorite part of the show. This thing caught my attention because there's video that I saw a long time ago, and this is in the UK. And they showed this police officer stomping this dude's head, right? I think we got it. Play that clip. Now, pause. This is all they showed on television. So, of course, you look at it, you go, yeah, I know these Muslims, and I know some of them are terrorists, but you can't kick a man in the head like that. You can't just stomp a man while he's down. He's in handcuffs and everything is there. And then I saw the actual full footage of what happened that led to this. Watch it. He's in the blue shirt. Watch him. Kicks the officer, punches him. Boom, hits her, knock her out, busted her nose. She's screaming in the corner over there. He knocked that one down. He punches this one in the back of the head. He's beating him. He tried to put him in a chokehold, which I think that cut off, but he pulled the guy to the ground, had him in a chokehold. The female officer that's screaming there with her nose busted up, she didn't help at all. But the other woman actually, or it was a woman or a guy, actually tased him. That's the only reason he stopped. Look, watch. He gets him in a chokehold, pulls him on the ground, try to choke him out. Then he gets tased, and then the officer gave him some street justice. And then you got this cop. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't never got popped in the nose like that. That probably hurt. But you can't be rendered incapable of doing your job because you got punched in the nose. You just can't happen. They having to tend to her like she was a part of the crime there. But here's the worst part of all this. You saw what happened. You saw the violence perpetuated from these idiots. Let's play that news clip.
On behalf of Fire Ramaz, age 21, Mohammed Ahmad, age 26, following today's verdict. This jury, after 19 hours and 48 minutes and a 5-week trial, failed to reach a verdict regarding either defendant and has been discharged. The court will reconvene on the 29th of May for the Crown to advise this court on whether there will be any further proceedings. It will be inappropriate to comment until the further date on Friday the 29th of May. Thank you.
How you don't go straight to jail after video shows you playing knockout kings with 5 or 6 officers trying to choke one, and the only way they survived it because you got tased? How do you not go to jail? I just had to throw that out there so y'all know how this foolery works on multiple levels outside of the United States of America, especially in Europe. Man, Europe is having a bad day. I just want y'all to know they had a bad decade because if they don't get this Muslim thing under control and they keep arresting people for what they think in their mind, there's no such thing as free speech. They arrest people for what their brain is thinking. A lady was praying at an abortion clinic, and they wanted to arrest her because it was hate speech. They said, what were you praying? What were you thinking about when you were praying? They're going to send you to jail for what you think about. That's why we had to leave these fools, and they'll never be as good as America. All right. Let's get to some of the UFO things. This is what you came here for, baby. I interviewed Tim Burchett, and it was absolutely incredible. I was amazed how funny he was. So I'm going to play that interview here in a second, but I want to give a quick update on some of these things that have happened and transpired. New information has come out, these UAPs, the UFOs, and I think a lot of this is, I don't know what to think about this stuff, to be quite honest, because now it's out. Everybody and their mama got an opinion. Everybody's going to make up these flying saucers and say there's 455 types of aliens, and they're going to play the game, and they're going to get rich off of it, and that's just what it is. But we may not never know what the truth is. Tim Burchett gave a good understanding of it to a certain degree, but we may never know the truth. All right, let's play the first news clip 300.
Pentagon now releasing another batch of its so-called UFO files after they were declassified by President Trump. And this morning, we got an exclusive first look.
This morning, the GMA exclusive, more than 50 videos and other documents detailing strange objects in the sky, many of which the military can't explain, released in the second batch of the Pentagon's so-called UFO files. Inside never-before-seen video like this from 2024, the Coast Guard picking up this object as it flew near a plane over the southeastern U.S., and this taken by the U.S. military over Syria in 2021, following an unidentified object before it suddenly speeds off. The service member who submitted the video labeling it instant acceleration. Others seen flying in apparent formation. All part of over 200 files released so far detailing what the military officially calls unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP, better known as UFOs, long an object of public fascination.
They want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material.
The files made public on order of President Trump, who earlier this month touted complete and maximum transparency, leaving it up to the public to, quote, decide for themselves what the hell is going on. In the newly released records, this video from 2020, taken in an undisclosed area under U.S. Central Command, appearing to show a sphere flying over a population center, the pilot getting a closer look before it eventually flew higher off into the sky. And this account from a senior U.S. intelligence officer just last year, describing seeing 2 large orbs flare up alongside their helicopter while on a mission, saying they were orange with a white or yellow center and emitted light in all directions. Fighter jets then scrambled to identify the objects, but couldn't, the officer recounts, then writing, the same orbs we had encountered were now chasing the fighters. We were virtually speechless after these observations.
After multiple investigations, the government has found no evidence any of these incidents are of an extraterrestrial nature, but military officials admit many remain unresolved.
So with that being said, all the questions that you have and that you're thinking about in your mind as these things are perpetuating, me and Tim Burchett talks about it. And you're going to be amazed at what he think this is and the ramifications that it has and the long-term effects that it has on the United States of America. And I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be what you think. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was able to interview him earlier because obviously we're on a time thing. So sometimes I got to interview people earlier, but I like for you to still see them. So we're going to put the interview in the live show. So without further ado, Let's get to the interview. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you guys I've been on this rampage going down the rabbit hole of looking up, is ET real or not? And I had to interview a congressman who's everywhere. He's talking about it. I think he's one of the few that are bold enough to put his reputation out on the line to tell the public what he can tell us about what's going on with these UFOs and other things that the government is withholding or that they may be releasing. And so without further ado, I want you guys to help me welcome the congressman from Tennessee, Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman Tim Burchett, welcome to the show.
I am really honored to be on with you. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, I count this as an incredible privilege because this is a very historical moment in humanity, because I believe that people have known about these UFO sightings and all of these things, but now the government is acknowledging it. And I think that from this point on, some of our founding fathers, forefathers didn't have an opportunity to present this to the public the way we can today, but we're going to start learning about a lot of stuff here soon. I'm hopeful of, and I'm alive to be able to interview the man that can give us as much information as possible. So, Congressman, the government release of the information, a lot of people have seen you talk about this before, but for my audience, why is the government releasing the files in small batches instead of just giving us everything that we should need to know right up front?
Well, the reason they're doing it at all is because we made them. Myself, Eric Burleson, Representative Luna from Florida, and Jared Moskowitz from Florida. We all kind of got together and rode this pony on out, and that's what we did. We had a lot of friction at first, and it just kind of manifested itself, I guess. I told somebody I didn't go looking for this issue; it kind of found me. But President Trump kept his word to me. I asked him about it. I said, "Would you please?" And he said he was going to do it. You know, dadgummit, he did it. But here's the problem we're seeing right now: is that his people are kind of getting stonewalled by some of the alphabet agencies. It's classic deep state. And I want to warn people, some of the stuff that's probably going to be on this group of videos that have just come out will be stuff you'll be easily identifiable. Mm-hmm. And I think they did that on purpose. I think they did that to kind of throw us off. And they said, oh, well, we're releasing it all. Well, the reality is they're not releasing it all. Mm-hmm. There's things that I've seen and people that I've talked to that don't have the clearance or the ability to come out and talk. And we've got to break through that. We've got to break through that. And I congratulate the president on his honesty to me, but as some of his top people have told me, they're getting a lot of resistance. And if I could go back a couple of years, I had an amendment on a big defense bill, and my amendment was 2 pages long, and it just said, release it, everything about it. And then they came in and the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, not Biden. Who's the Democrat leader? Senate. Anyway, he had a 60-page bill to do what I wanted to do, and and in that bill it created a format or a commission, I guess, that would be very similar to the Kennedy assassination. It was actually modeled after the Kennedy assassination, and that's what everybody jumped on board with. And his bill ended up dying a painful death in the Senate, and he ran the Senate. So, but it's just a cover up upon cover-ups, and the deep state does not want us to have this. And part of it's arrogance, I think, and part of it's could you imagine if they found an energy source, because these things are hovering for hours on end. We have reports. And then they can just shoot off into space, just almost, it's instantaneous. And the amount of power to do that is just beyond belief. And we don't have any capabilities of that. But to do that, the energy source would be incredible. And when they get these things on sonar, they show no heat signature. So they have 0 point energy of some kind. Could you imagine what that would do to the oil companies and the war pimps at the Pentagon, we wouldn't be going on into these wars for oil. We wouldn't be worried about it. Poor people could cool their homes in the summer and heat them in the winter for virtually no cost and no threat to our environment. I mean, can you imagine the turmoil that could cause? So I think there's a lot to do with it. And also I think there's a complete arrogance. You didn't ask me about this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
No, I love to hear it.
If you're interested. There's a real arrogance in government. I mean, I'm sitting there talking to this little white guy in a skiff, this little skinny kid, and he's kind of a smart aleck under the Biden administration, and he's got the man bun going, and he didn't care for me, and the feeling was mutual, brother. I can tell you that. And he told me that the president was on a need-to-know basis. And what kind of arrogance is that? That is unbelievable. Chuck Schumer, that's who had the bill. I'm sorry, it was Schumer. That's who I was trying to think of. I don't know, I couldn't think of.
Yeah, Congressman, I was wondering, do you think it's more of they don't want us to know the information because of the technology and innovation that could make a lot of what they're doing obsolete? Or do you think that it's also some very scary, problematic things that the public may not be ready to comprehend, or both? I mean, from the things that you've seen.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm not as, is it interdimensional? Is it demonic? Are we doing business with the devil, so to speak? And I'm a Christian. I assume you are by your artwork there on your left arm.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just not worried about the demonic element. There's enough of that here. I mean, they control Hollywood and probably most of Washington, D.C. They don't need a spaceship to do it,
right,
to come in. And so I maybe some of it is. Some of these things we see they look angelic, what you would think would be, but they could be demons. I don't know. But I'm really just not worried about that. But I am worried about a government that thinks that they know so much that we don't need to know it. But going back to say they do have a flying saucer of some sort, and it wouldn't be within the government, because everybody says, well, go out to Area 51, Burchett. Well, Area 51 would be a great place to get a T-shirt, maybe get your picture in one of those signs that says, if you cross over this line, you could be met with lethal force, and there's all this stuff. But that's where we do most of our testing of some of our high very secret aircraft, high-tech stuff. But I don't think they have it there. I think what they've done is they've handed it off to these 5 or 6 humongous private enterprise businesses, missile defense contractors, things like that jet propulsion corporations. And they've handed it off to them so that we can't FOIA them. Now, FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. So me as a congressman or you as a citizen say, I want to get this, or a member of the press says, I want to get this, and they contact one of these agencies and says, I want this information, and they have to give it to you within reason. It's a national security issue or something, but that's what they always hide behind. Everything's always national security. And so they have given it off to these corporations so that we can't touch it. And because I can't FOIA a private corporation. I can, but they don't have to agree to it. So we just keep moving down this road. And I think there's some secrecy, but there's also, I've been told by some well-connected folks that these craft we do have, we really, it's kind of like I'm an old motorcycle guy. I've got a 1947 Indian Chief. So I take that thing back in history to the Mayflower, and they land at Plymouth Rock or whatever. And, they're going to see this bright, shiny object. Maybe they can roll it and they think, wow, this is cool looking. I don't know what it is. They would never be able to adjust the carburetor. They would never be able to adjust the spark plugs. They probably couldn't get a fuel of the high enough octane to make it kick over. It'd be a bright, shiny object. And they might get it started. But they wouldn't know what to do with it when they got it started. So we've got all that. And then you put the arrogance into it that they're going to have to admit that they've had this stuff since at least 1947.
Wow.
And I think Roswell was a cover-up. 1947, New Mexico. Because military intelligence comes out literally with a press release, and it's released to all the press. It was in the papers. You can see the historical record of it. And it says saucer captured in New Mexico desert. Now, the next day they come out and say, oh, no, we made a mistake. It was a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I saw
now,
that.
How do you go from a saucer to a hot air balloon? It just, to me, that's just beyond belief. And the arrogance that's associated with that, believing that we'll believe that, to me is, because back in the day we did. We trusted the government. Mm-hmm. But now we know that that's not the case. I've been in government most of my life, and I sure as heck don't trust it.
No, I'll tell you this, that the feeling that I have as a person that's never been in government is that the trust is growing by the minute, and because we know that there's good people in government like yourself and others that are trying to do their best, but they're being overtaken and sometimes thwarted by the deep state and these powers that be, these arrogant honey bun head fools that when they get power and control, they want to, exercise their ignorance. And so I think the public is becoming a lot more skeptical. Even the stuff that's released, I tell my audience, you got to look at it and evaluate that too. I mean, what is the government really showing us real stuff? I mean, do you think that in part? Well, I'll ask you this because I want to know. Because I can't. I'm probably never going to be able to see any of the stuff that you've seen, and maybe none of us will. What is one thing that you think that if the public knew, or is there something that if the public knew, it would cause the public to completely crumble? Not the technology aspect of it, but something, I'll say it like this, being a Christian, do you think that if we knew everything that the government knows about this, would it affect Christianity? Would it cause people to fall away from the faith, or do you think it'll cause people to get closer to the faith because of what they've been able to observe?
I don't. I've seen a lot of things that people told me shouldn't exist and don't exist and defy our laws of gravity and physics. And to me, I go back and read the Bible. Genesis 1, God created the heavens and the earth. Then you go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel saw the wheel. Now, the wheel was, at that time was, this is translated from Hebrew to King James, but the wheel was something that was the most technologically advanced item they had at the time was a wheel. And they talk about a wheel within a wheel, which would be the classic saucer. You get it's round and it's got the dome on top. And I don't think it does. And I think that it's kind of arrogant to think that we're the best thing that God could ever made. I just can't imagine him sitting there and puts humans up on his mantle saying, gosh, this is the best I could ever do. And look, I go out every night and I look at the stars, and the light from those stars literally, this is hard for my little brain to figure out. It took me 6 years to get out of the University of Tennessee, and I didn't drink or smoke pot. My daddy was in conduct, and Mama was on the board. Mama was, when she died, they put her on in the Hall of Fame of Knoxville College, which was a historically black college there in Knoxville.
Wow.
And so where she taught forever, but I come from a very educated family, but I'm not that end of the spectrum. But I say that within my ability to understand, but the light from those stars left there. You're seeing it, and it left there before the time of Christ.
Wow.
Now, that's light years. That is vast, man. And I just can't comprehend it. And some of those stars that we see, the light left there and the star no longer exists. I can't even comprehend that. It's like I don't smoke weed, but if I did, that'd be the kind of thing I'd sit there and think about all the time. It kind of freak me out,
Yeah.
But no, I just don't have I'm not worried about it. I'm good with Jesus. I'm not worried about all that stuff. That doesn't, and I hear people saying, I've had people tell me that, and I've seen preachers on the internet calling me out for this stuff. It's demonic and all this. And maybe some of it is, but maybe some of it isn't. But shouldn't I know? Why should my government block that kind of stuff? And I just can't go that route.
Yeah, I think people with little faith, or they haven't been open-minded enough, and they've probably been a little too arrogant. on thinking that they know everything about everything that the Bible says. I think the people who operate in humility and understand God is in control no matter what, I think will fare better when we get access to new information, because the Bible never said that there was no quote unquote what we call aliens. The Bible never predicted any of these things. People have done it in their own minds and visualized things to fit their agenda. And I think some of those pastors are guilty of this. And they're afraid that they've been deceiving the people and telling the people some of these things are absolute when they have not done the research. And when this stuff comes out, they're going to either have to deny it or they're going to have to, tell the congregation that they lied. But, I was worried about that. I was worried that some of this information will come out and people will begin to operate as if everything is demonic and begin, when we find out it's not all demonic and there's some connections between intelligent communication between these foreign entities and human beings over historical time periods, that people would begin to flip out. And
I think that's more of a control thing. I just think they're trying to control us and our thoughts. And, that bothers me too. You got all these atheist knuckleheads in government that are worried about my faith. I think that's just a misdirection by them. I think they're just not being true to us and true to themselves. And again, the Bible talks about people that, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I never do is I never get cocky about how much I know, because there's always going to be some 12-year-old kid that knows more than I do.
Right. That's true. Congressman, go ahead.
You go ahead. No, I was just going to say, it's like when the government says, oh, this computer system's you're not going to be able to hack it. And then some 14-year-old kid in a garage in West Knoxville, Tennessee, is already figured out how to crack the code,
Right. That's hilarious. Congressman, I got a couple questions I want to ask you, because my people want to hear if these things are real or not, right? So the first one is, do you think aliens are, based on what you know, amongst us now, meaning that they could be living amongst the population, living in a house down the street, or do you think they're kind of isolated into these bases in the ocean or something of that nature?
I don't think they're living amongst us. There's people talking about these hybrid stuff. I don't get into all that. I was talking to a guy who was a former admiral who talked to me about the sightings above the 5 deep sea areas, and said, we've mapped less than 20% of the ocean floor. We've mapped more of the moon, for goodness sakes, than we have the ocean floor. So when you look at there's more water than land on this earth. On the surface. So to me, that just seems more logical that there's something there, that it would be based there. And if that's possible, I don't know. I tend to lean that way just because of probability and statistics, but who knows? Go ahead. There's a physics formula that it's quantum physics, and it's basically something's vibrating over here, and then it can appear over here instantaneously. It's quantum physics, and and you'll have somebody call in. So that's not exactly how it works, but that's just, I'm explaining to you on my level that I understand, and it's instantaneous travel, which is, the time doesn't figure into it, or distance. And to me, that science proves that there's a God then, because quantum physics is, God's here and everywhere. Right. It's instantaneous. So if these people or these beings or whatever have cracked that code, then they're traveling.
Do we have some of these sightings or information that America has communicated with other countries? Because, being an American, it seems like the center of the universe for us, but these other countries are having, if these extraterrestrial beings or whatever exist, they have to be all over the world. So are we communicating with other countries about this?
Yeah.
Are other countries reporting these things?
I was been associated with some Christian organizations throughout the world, and I talked to a fella over the internet from Russia who actually had said that they're trying to get into theirs. Now Japan, because of what we're doing, is going to start releasing theirs. I know Canada has a department that does that. England and I believe France, in Central America, a lot of wild stuff comes out of there. But everybody, it seems almost every nation in this world has got a department that's looking at it. And yeah, there's some inner talking amongst the officials, mostly after they're retired though, because they're sworn to so much secrecy.
Yeah. Congressman, have you seen because I've seen on the internet, last night I was looking at it, scrolling, they were saying it's these different type of species. Is that something that's verifiable, or is that more mythical, as far as what you've seen, what you can tell us, and like what is known, even if you didn't see it, somebody else see it? Like, is there different types of species of these beings?
I would tell you that it's mythical, but I had a world, I'm going to say somebody who's known throughout the world, meet with me here, and he told me that these people wanted to meet with me, and I said, sure, send them up to the office. And they said, they don't want to come to D.C. They want to come to the farm and see you in Tennessee. I said, all right. And I remember my wife and daughter were out of town, which was a good thing because I only had 6 Mountain Dews in the fridge, I think. And they came in and said, you mind if we hook up something to your television? I was like, sure. I don't know. All I know is push the button and put the battery in. My daughter has to program it, and my wife programs everything. So they came to town and they showed me some stuff on the screen that was just beyond belief.
Wow.
But anyway, and so we were just talking. I was asking them what they thought, where they were at, because I'm very cautious, because people try to set me up. I think the government has a disinformation, which you're going to see some of that footage is a disinformation. It'll show you stuff that you know exactly what it is. It's not a UFO, but they started talking about that, and I was just like, what? Because that's kind of the fringe. Used to be kind of the fringe thing, but now that we sort of moved it to the mainstream, and there's polling done that shows that over 55% of the population of this country thinks we're not alone. And that cuts across socioeconomic, racial, everything. And that's doctors and lawyers and ditch diggers, Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the thing. I've heard the definition of about 8 different species. I don't know till I see it. Till I shake hands or paws or whatever they got with them. I get sent a lot of material, and I get a lot of pictures and videos, and people want me to come out to the house and see something. I'm always afraid I'll end up in a freezer in North Carolina doing a family of cannibals will get me or something. But no, I'm very cautious about that. I've got a bookshelf full of books that people have sent me. You got to read this. It explains it, and what it is and what's going on. And I'm really cautious about all that. I think what we better get back to is 2 things. It's not about little green men. It's not about flying saucers. It's about what are we spending tens of millions of your hard-earned dollars on if they tell us they don't exist. That should be the question we all ask. And it's going to fall within, there's going to be 8 different species to nothing. But I think America needs to know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Congressman, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that.
Please just call me Tim. All right.
Tim, is that okay?
You work for a living. I'm in Congress. I ain't hit a lick in 8 years.
See, I grew up in the South too, man. I mean, I consider Texas a part of the South, but I grew up in Texas, and I'd be dang if I call somebody by their first name. It's funny. I didn't even know my daddy's first name for a while until I got a little older, because I would never call my daddy's first name. So.
No, but, sir and ma'am. Mama is ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Daddy is sir. Yes, sir. No, sir.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, is there anything you'd like to add? I mean, I think we covered a lot of it, because I'm starting to really see that it could be economical. If somehow we have access to this, magnetic propulsion.
Look, the powers that be, if black folks and white folks aren't fighting, and the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims or whoever aren't fighting, it doesn't keep them in power.
Right.
And it doesn't keep them us distracted. And so I think an issue like this is great because it cuts. I mean, I'm in a committee with Jared Moskowitz. He's Jewish. He's very progressive, super smart. One of my best friends. He's a Democrat. He's in there. AOC's in there, and you got Luna. She's as conservative as I am, and the rest of the gang. We're all just kind of get to the answers, the bottom of it. And I think this is kind of a unifying thing. And I think that's part of the friction too, because they don't know what to do with it. They can't say, oh, that's a bunch of right-wing nuts or that's some left-wing thing. That's just folks wanting to know.
And President Trump is open-minded to it all. He's not resisting it.
Very, very. He's about transparency. President Trump has been about, I had the guy sitting right here in this chair when I talked to him about it on the phone. And he said, what do you think it is? I said, Mr. President, I really honestly don't know the answer to that. I said, but I think we need to know. And I think you're the president to do it. And he is. I mean, if they don't kill him first, he's going to turn the tables on this thing.
Yeah, I believe it wholeheartedly. And I know we run a long time. One day we have to come back because I want to talk to you about, the state of our republic, especially in Congress. I want to get more insight because I talked to Anna Paulina, and I was down there actually in Congress. I was in the office and we were talking, and I was just asking her how do people in Congress get along? Is it all, fire and gnashing of teeth, or is it to where it's more of a public display of frustration with one another, but behind the scenes, is everybody cooperating, or are most people cooperating? Who's friendly, who's not? Is any of this stuff real? Because on the outside, we see it a certain way, but on the inside, it's very different. How hard?
Just remember what I said. If we're all fighting, they stay in power. If young kids are getting killed over in the Middle East, the old guard just stays in power. You can cut it any way you want, but it's all about power. It's all about control. I mean, that's Washington. You've been around. You've seen it. Yeah. That's what Washington. That's what your business is about. It's about power and control, and everybody's trying to push you out of the way.
Yeah, that is 100% true. But I want to thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy man, working hard for the people, especially the people of Tennessee. But God bless you. Keep up the wonderful work, and hopefully we can communicate again about a few things, because you're one of the few that I trust, that I know is authentic.
Please stay in touch. Please stay in touch. I love doing this. This is traditional media is gone, man. Right. It's people like yourself that are going to save this dadgum country.
Well, I
appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you. God bless you guys. Y'all have a wonderful day, and also thank you for coming on.
God bless you, man. God has blessed me. Thank you.
I told y'all that Tim Burchett interview was going to be absolutely incredible. I love that he's candid. I love that he's trustworthy, and he is funny. It's just as funny as Kennedy. I don't know if it's a Southern thing or what, but they are hilarious. But I got something else I want to talk to you about. I saw this MRI of this lady's legs. I know it sounds crazy. This is kind of different, but I saw an MRI of this lady's legs, and it literally looked like A5 Wagyu. And when I did a little bit of research, I realized that it is because of the things that people are eating in their diet. Literally, sugary drinks, soda, candy bars, and it's causing people to be in really bad and poor health. So I brought Kim Bright, one of our fan favorites, back to the show, and I interviewed her just the other day, but I want to show y'all that interview because it's absolutely incredible, very informative, and it gives people hope on how they should live when it comes to better health for your body and for you to live a better, more healthy life. All right? So let's get to that interview that I did with Kim Bright. Roll it. Listen, y'all, I have to talk about this. I was sent this image, and it's the craziest thing that I ever seen. And I'm not trying to make fun of nobody, but somebody helped their cousin them who got these Wagyu ribeye thighs. This is an MRI done of a woman's thighs. Literally look like they came from Japan, or not Japan, Kobe Wagyu. That's what it is. And when you look at it, this woman had to have been literally having a diet of just cereal, candy, what they got, soft drinks, AKA sodas, bottles, sugar drinks, which is like Gatorade and all that other stuff. I don't understand why people decide to do themselves this way. When you don't eat healthy or you don't even attempt, you end up like this. But we got to talk about it. And so I want to bring our dear friend back, Kim Bright. She's the founder of Brightcore. Has been helping Americans get healthy for 50 years. Kim, welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be back, Brandon. Yeah, those look like great steaks if you're eating Wagyu beef, but those aren't great thighs to have, I'm telling you, because, typically when we think about fat, we're thinking about the fat that we can actually see with our eyes. I mean, the big beer bellies, the flabby arms and flabby thighs. But there's a lot of the fat that's affecting our health that we cannot see. There's something called visceral fat. That's the fat that surrounds our organs, and it has serious health implications. And we've known about that for a long time. But there's this new research about a different kind of fat that also has serious implications for our health. And it's something I think everybody needs to know about and should be talking about. Now, you can look on the outside, and your muscles might look firm and strong. But then the internal structure, which you cannot see, that is not strong. That is where fat is slowly building up inside the muscle tissue. And that's called intramuscular fat. That's what you saw there. And this can actually affect how well the muscle's going to work over time. Muscles, all muscles in your body. Not only are your muscles affected, but it also is going to impact your joints and your mobility, because the muscles help those things move, right, and hold them in place. So this study focused specifically on thigh muscles because they play such a key role in supporting our knees, which affects daily movements such as walking or standing. And another thing is osteoarthritis, Brandon, is an increasingly prevalent and costly global health issue. It is constituting one of the largest non-cancer related healthcare costs in the United States and around the world. And it's highly linked to obesity and unhealthy lifestyle choices.
And Kim, similarly to what we saw in that image, could this possibly be related to processed foods and some of that junk food that people eat on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, I hate to even call them ultra-processed foods. They're really just substances and compounds. There's just nothing in them. I mean, when we think about ultra-processed foods, we think about high amounts of sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats. But it's more than that. It's about the chemicals that they use in these things. They use hydrogenated oils, including seed oils, modified starches, emulsifiers, artificial colorants and flavors. And while ultra-processed foods are high in sugar, fat, and salt, their danger lies equally in being low in fiber, lacking in nutrients, and hyperpalatable. They make them taste good, and people get addicted. These hyperpalatable foods are engineered with chemicals to be irresistible. They look good, they taste good, and that sends brain signals that cause you to overeat. And that's what's keeping you addicted to these unhealthy things. I can't call them foods. I'm sorry, I almost shake when I call them foods. And it makes it so hard for you to lose weight. The rise of these ultra-processed foods is driven by these powerful companies, these commercial forces. They do aggressive marketing, and then they're one of the biggest lobbyists in DC that shapes our food policies. They're in cahoots. Let's just say the truth. They're in cahoots with Big Pharma, Brandon. And it's a vicious cycle of us buying their poisonous food, getting addicted to it, then we get sick, and now we get to use their drugs.
It's crazy, but RFK I think he's done a pretty decent job. I would like to see them do more, but I got a clip from RFK of him talking about this.
70% of Americans are either obese or overweight. And it's not because they got indolent or because we became lazy or because we suddenly developed giant appetites. It's because we're being given food that is low in nutrition and high in calories, and it's destroying our health. I see it when I go across the country.
We met with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. last month after he issued new dietary guidelines that for the first time advise against highly processed foods. You have said that these ultra-processed foods are poisoning us. I think many Americans would be surprised to hear that.
And we're seeing in our population people who are who are obscenely obese and at the same time malnourished.
Yeah, I find it to be very interesting because I look at certain populations of people, I look at government assistance and the things like that. It's like our government is assisting people who are low income to consume more of this stuff. And growing up, that's all we ate was processed. It was convenient, it was cheap, and it was addictive.
Exactly. And, you know, I agree with you. And now they're trying to make a change and make it so if you are, if you have less money, that you can go in and get real food rather than just this stuff with food stamps and things like that. Before it wasn't like that. So I think where they're getting education out more to people. So hopefully people will start to understand that is not the stuff to eat or put in your children's bodies. But, you know, RFK Jr. just released his first episode of his podcast a few weeks ago about fixing America's food system. And he said in that we now have the highest chronic disease burden in the entire world. We've gone from spending zero on chronic disease when his uncle JFK was president in 1960 to spending now $4.3 trillion a year. And it's now the biggest budget item in the federal government. 40 cents, think of it, 40 cents out of every taxpayer dollar that we're giving to the federal government is going to treat diseases that are diet related. And these foods, and again, I have a hard time calling them foods, processed meats, sodas, snacks, they constitute over 60% of daily calories in the United States, contributing to thousands of preventable deaths. I mean, it's crazy, Brandon.
Yeah, and here's a little article that we have from the BBC. Ultra-processed foods may be linked to early death. No duh. I mean, you know, I don't get it. You know, in other countries, they don't do it in the way that we do it in America. Like you said, RFK is trying to make a change to that. But I mean, it is ridiculous because we see that it's not necessary for providing nutrition. We don't have to process the food the way we do.
No, it actually takes all the nutrition out. I mean, when you have high consumption of these things, it's going to increase your risk of obesity by 55% eating these ultra-processed compounds, and your risk of type 2 diabetes by 40%, and a chance of early death by 20%. A study indicated that these ultra-processed things, foods, again, I can't say it, it's just I can't say it. We're linked to over 124,000 preventable deaths in the United States in 2025 alone. 124,000 deaths that could have been avoided, Brandon. So really, for all of you out there that are drinking soda instead of water, eating chips instead of eating real food, don't think that this isn't going to affect you until you're older. It's affecting you now. It is killing you every day. It is not good. And our diet, what we consume, is the number one factor in maintaining our health and quality of life. So your decisions count every day.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that we got a article here, but it's one of those things where it's compounding. You know, as young people, you think that you could just eat it. You'd be a garbage can. I mean, I was a garbage. We used to drink soda. We used to drink soda hot. Just right from going outside, but over time it does have a contributing factor, and then when you get a little older, it's going to catch up to you. But here's a little article we have of Kimchi officially recognized by Trump's administration. Be sure to include in your diet. That's interesting.
Yeah, you know, RFK Jr. and the Trump administration implemented the new 2025 to 2030 dietary guidelines for Americans, and they've officially recognized kimchi as a health food for the very first time. And, you know, the benefits of kimchi, it helps train and balance your immune system. It helps your body spot and fight off harmful germs more effectively. Well, also, it calms down too much inflammation in your body that damages your health. And kimchi also drastically improves your cardiovascular health.
We have another article here, effects of fermented kimchi. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the regular consumption of kimchi is linked to lower blood pressure. It reduces your triglycerides. Those are blood fats, like bad cholesterol, and it balances out your blood sugar, which help prevent heart disease and diabetes. This is especially important if you have family history of cardiovascular problems. And kimchi is high in fiber and probiotics, specifically lactic acid bacteria. Now, that's helping balance the good and the bad bacteria in your gut, and that's aiding in helping with your digestion, and it relieves symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, for instance. Also acid reflux, things like this all start in the gut. Being low calorie and high in fiber, kimchi is going to aid in metabolism. And several studies demonstrate that it has the ability to reduce body weight, Brandon. One study showed it reduced body fat by 31.8%. That's huge.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that it's coming from the gut. Like almost everything, they call it your third brain or second brain. It's coming from your gut. You have to, consume good quality stuff. But I want you to talk about this too, because there's, kimchi and then there's other fermented foods. Can you talk about kimchi versus those fermented foods?
Sure. I mean, I hear it so often from people, I'm eating sauerkraut or I'm eating yogurt or kefir, and I don't need to eat kimchi because I have these other fermented foods in my diet. And all these fermented foods are great for you. But let me tell you, nothing compares to kimchi. And here's why. Sauerkraut, if we look at sauerkraut, it only contains 28 different probiotic strains, which pales in comparison to kimchi because it has over 900 different strains of beneficial bacteria. Now, sauerkraut has beneficial health benefits, but there is a very clear reason why all the studies that are coming out about kimchi and not other fermented foods. Kimchi's king. I mean, the strains in kimchi, such as Lactobacillus plantarum, are noted for being particularly hardy, ensuring more live bacteria survive the journey to your gut. And many probiotics are going to die in the harsh acid environment of your stomach before they ever reach your gut. But the advantage of kimchi is that the physical cabbage and fiber actually act like a protective vehicle, if you will, this body armor. It shields the good bacteria during digestion, so it ensures a much higher percentage of the live microbes are going to arrive safely in your intestines, in your gut, where they need to be for you to get all the benefits.
And there's I hope I'm saying this right, antimicrobial properties. Am I saying that word right?
You're totally on. You're totally saying it right.
I knew
Yeah.
I knew I'd get it.
I knew you could do it.
Now, I understand how to read it, but can you explain exactly what that means?
Of course I can. I mean, it's something that everybody needs to be particularly concerned about when it comes to your own health, because microbial threats like pathogens, parasites, funguses, and bad bacteria, that's what we're talking about in the antimicrobials. So it's against those bad guys. Anti means against. So kimchi helps your body fight off viruses like the flu. One recent study found that kimchi can actually slow down the growth of the common flu virus. And that's a big reason for that. A big reason for that is how it supports your immune system. Brandon, I don't know if you know this or not, but 70 to 80% of your immune system is housed in your gut. Wow. And so this is why it's so important to pay attention to having all the good guys in your gut. And kimchi's probiotics have also shown activity against candida, which is a common yeast that can overgrow. Again, another pathogen, especially after taking antibiotics. And I'm sure you know that almost everybody's taken antibiotics during their lifetime, and some of them have taken a lot of them. So you can imagine their gut is not healthy. So antibiotics wipe out the good and the bad bacteria. So when they wipe out your good bacteria, you've got to put back in fermented foods like kimchi to help rebuild that protective layer. During the days of COVID-19, South Korea had a much lower death rate compared to every other country, which I found really interesting. But even more interesting, the same thing was noticed during the 2003 SARS outbreak, when South Korea reported 0 deaths, Brandon.
Dang.
And then, the researchers looked at kimchi's antiviral and probiotic properties as the determining factor because they consume kimchi so regularly. They consume it every day, and some of them consume it at every meal. South Koreans actually live 5 to 6 years longer than we do in the United States. And of course, we know that we're not going to overhaul the global food system overnight. And the thing that we do have control over is our daily patterns. And those small, steady decisions that you're going to make from here on out they compound over time. And getting the unique strains of bacteria from kimchi into your gut every day is the best way to start.
You know, one thing, a question I have, Kim, is people consume kimchi in all kind of ways. Most people probably are like, what is kimchi, right? You think about it, consuming it in the food or whatever the case may be. But I think that some people, when they consume it via food or they just try to eat it raw, they may have, maybe the taste is a little much for them. Can you talk about the difference between maybe consuming it like that or maybe a more convenient way to consume kimchi?
Yeah, I sure can. I mean, it's the only problem is it's not something that it's easy to consume every day, even if you like it. And that's why we went ahead and we created Kimchi One. And what Kimchi One is convenient capsules for daily use. What we did is we took the kimchi, the actual food, we use a cold process drying method to retain all of its fiber and nutrition of the actual fermented kimchi, and virtually no sodium in these capsules, unlike the store-bought kimchi. Good for people that have sodium-restricted diets. 100% made in the USA, all natural, non-GMO. And Brandon, I'm telling you, we've got so many people writing in or calling us and saying this has just changed their life. And I mean, this is dramatic. Again, remember, health starts in the gut or disease starts in the gut. So your gut is your most important part of your body to start, doing healthy things with. So people that had problems with digestion and bloating, finally getting regular. People who had problems with their immune system and they used to get sick all the time. They're not getting sick anymore. And people who experience chronic fatigue finally have their energy back. And people with diabetes who struggle with their blood sugar, their blood pressure, and their weight, they are experiencing such dramatic changes, Brandon.
I really love to hear that. The more you talk about this, the more in my mind I can think of my mama. I'm like, I got to get my mama some kimchi because my mama is very picky in particular. And I know for a fact if she don't have to, deal with a certain taste, she could just take a capsule, just a few of them, drink her, she got a little water that she drink with it. And I think it'll be phenomenal. I have to get her some.
Gotta love on your mama there. Love on your mama. Make her healthy.
And I know there's a whole bunch of people in my audience that can think about their mama or probably themselves that could probably use some kimchi.
Yes, and I'd like to give them special so they can start today with themselves and their mamas. I mean, if they go to brightcore.com/Tatum, they're going to get 25% off by clicking the link below. You've got that link below there, or call 888-751-4429 for up to 50% off and free shipping. And the first 100 callers, Brandon, that that are calling in, we're going to give a free bottle of Revive capsules with their order. Wow. And Revive contains 5 types of collagen, hyaluronic acid, biotin, and vitamin C to reduce wrinkles, help you grow thicker, healthier hair, and even support stronger bones and joints. So again, you only get the best discounts in that free bottle of Revive capsules when you call in. That number is 888-751-4429.
Kim, thank you so much for always loving on my audience and always giving us good context and information and helping people be healthy for over 50 years or at least 50 years. And we're very grateful for you. Over now.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful for you, and we always enjoy having you on the show to explain these things to us.
Well, God bless you and your audience. Thank you so much for having me, Brandon.
Kim, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, another good hitter. I can't imagine my thighs looking like that. Y'all, I ain't gonna lie, my thighs started to look like that for a minute there. I had to kimchi up myself. But make sure you take care of your health. It's one of the reasons why I love talking to Kim and why I love tackling these topics, because we always talk about politics and all that other stuff. But if you are not healthy, you're not doing the right thing with your body, you're not taking care of your gut, what is the point of politics?